Also, that was my accent. I meant to say politics as usual.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Me too.
We begin tonight with two scenes that are all too familiar: protests, arrests, and the presence of U.S. troops in an American city. 700 U.S. Marines have been deployed to Los Angeles to support ICE operations, joining 4,000 National Guard troops already in place. The official line was that they're protecting federal property amid protests over immigration rates. But now it's being reported that the National Guard troops are protecting, quote unquote, ICE agents as they make their arrests themselves. But this isn't just about a singular event. This is a full-scale federal response to a crisis declared by the president himself at a time when California officials say that they had things under control. Governor Gavin Newsom is pushing back hard, calling the deployment unwarranted and un-American. He's filed a lawsuit claiming the president overstepped constitutional limits. But for President Trump, he's leaning in, calling LA protesters insurrectionists and threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act and claiming the city would have been completely obliterated if he hadn't sent in the troops, which goes contrary to something that Trump said just 4 years ago.
We have laws. We have to go by the laws. We can't move in the National Guard. I can call insurrection, but there's no reason to ever do that, even in a Portland case. We can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor.
And then came the escalation that turned a protest response into a political firestorm. It started with border czar Tom Homan, who said that if any governor impeded ICE or harbored undocumented immigrants, it could warrant an arrest.
There have been threats, previously that if you stand in the way of your enforcement operations, you could be subject potentially to arrest. Are you saying that about Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom? Are they at risk of being arrested?
I'll say it about anybody. You cross that line, it's a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien. It's a felony to impede law enforcement from doing their job.
To which, so he said straight up, he would arrest them if they got in the way. And that is something that Governor Newsom didn't take lightly. Here was his response.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. But you know what? Let your hands off 4-year-old girls that are trying to get educated. Let your hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
Newsom for president. Ooh. Okay.
Hours later, Trump added fuel to the fire when asked how he felt about the situation.
Gavin Newsom he's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job. Look, I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. It's about 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget. I always do under. What is your?
What? So if you didn't hear, Trump said if he was Tom, he would do it, meaning he would arrest Gavin Newsom.
Did he compare a railroad
to a flagpole?
Flagpole. I just find that interesting.
Now a federal judge is set to weigh in, and while Homan is walking his comment back, calling it, quote, blown out of proportion, the deployment continues, ICE raids continue, and a city of 4 million people watches this play out with troops in the streets. But this moment isn't just about politics. It's about people and how federal power lands on neighborhoods, communities, and families that just trying to live their day-to-day life. And it's really what about a country that we're becoming when, in response to protests, is bringing in the Marines and the National Guard and calling for a governor's arrest. Is it possible to have a serious debate about immigration and public safety while people are being tear gassed, detained, or labeled invaders by their own government? Bill, what do you think?
It's interesting to me, the dynamic of Donald Trump. I mean, what I've learned from protests and being at protests and watching is that there typically are always state agitators. Like there are people that are paid by the state to agitate and get this sort of response. Donald Trump is a fear monger, and it's incredible to me that like you stirred up this entire sort of, oh my God, they're rioting, draw men, bring in the troops, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And then it's like create the chaos, then pretend to be the solution. That's exactly how you be a tyrant. And it's interesting, even more so, that the guard is supposed to be at the there's a little tricky there, right? Like the president can activate the National Guard because he has federal oversight. But to supersede the governor's power is wild to me. Like it's actually wild to me.
Ty, how do you feel about the normalization? It seems like because they were asking Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, about this because he's kind of over the National Guard as well, and they were asking him. He was like, "Oh, I can see this being expanded, and this can be happening more." How do you feel about the normalization of bringing in the military as police, really, to detain protests?
Yeah, right there. I guess my biggest thought is kind of going back to the election cycle and how people really did. Oh, it's no big deal. Who's in office doesn't really matter. Who's president? It's going to be all the same, and blah 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 blah. And I think this is kind of one of the few times in history people really see and understand the consequences of elections and votes. People's lives are being horribly ripped apart. There's that, like they were saying, oh, that's not something that's going to happen. That's not something that's going to happen. And these things are actually happening. Trump is going in with unchecked power. He's not listening to judges. He's not listening to governors. Trump is literally doing whatever he wants to do, however he wants to do it. Policy, process, and law be damned. Like, I guess maybe this can all fall down on his head. But if the history of Donald Trump says anything, he's not going to have any consequences. I also want to point out the irony of Trump's hypocrisy with January 6th in comparison to right now and his narratives. Right. So very interesting. Right. So very interesting.
What's considered an insurrection and what's not? Like, how do you determine that?
It's Trump's job to determine what an insurrection is and what isn't, because that's what kings do.
I do have a question though, seriously, and this is for Dex, and welcome to the show, Eric, as well. Welcome to the show, E. Good to see you, bro.
Okay, there you go.
You're on mute, but you can unmute yourself when you're ready and turn your TV down. I do have a question for you though, Dex, because I was thinking of something, and do you think the voters and people who support Trump are really concerned about how he's using his power, or are they just more satisfied that he's quote unquote taking action and doing so no matter what?
I think that's a slippery slope though, because I feel like people are smart enough to not be honest about it. You know what I mean? People who truly support Donald Trump, I don't think they're going to jump on social media and be honest and say, like, what I'm seeing happening right now is disgusting. Like, they're not going to say that. They're just going to say, well, he told you that he is going to fight immigration, and this is showing us that he's fighting immigration. And then when it spreads to other city, which honestly, I think it's going to, and it seems like it is, when it continues to spread, then it's kind of like it becomes an us versus them kind of thing once again. And I think that's what they feed off of. As long as I can say, like, well, we're trying to do this, we're doing this, and they are doing this, I think his supporters will be like, okay, fine, like, he's right. I'm on the us side, and that's them over there doing that. We're not doing that. So not really. I really don't think that his supporters are going to walk this back at all, because also, like, people don't want to be embarrassed and people don't want to be wrong. So it's kind of one of those things, like, you can't admit that he's wrong in this situation. And I also remember when the George Floyd protests were happening, he said that he would call the National Guard. He said that then. So, like, to me, it's not really shocking that he's doing that now, because he said it, that he would have done it during protests then.
Yeah. More of the same for Trump. Eric, anything to add to this before we get to the next one?
I mean, we predicted that this would happen. I mean, we always
we told people for 4 years.
We tried to tell you. We tried to tell you. Everybody
I'm just shocked
was
that it ended up happening again. Like we're right back at square one.
Yeah, I mean,
it's George Floyd all over again.
Yeah, I know Ty's not surprised. Ty's not surprised.
I think it's a little worse than George Floyd, though.
Yeah,
to be honest, it's much worse than George Floyd. Like it's much worse because you have somebody who is claiming to be an American president, but he's using this authoritarian, sort of like totalitarian dictatorship. Like he's an oligarch. He is a terrorist. Right. He is an actual there's an actual amendment that is supposed to protect America from him. Right. It's the 14th Amendment, and it is mind-blowing to me. But it's matter of fact, it's not mind-blowing to me because there are people out there like, oh, the Mexicans are doing exactly what they think we're doing. You are whitewashed, and you've said like your mind has been sanitized, and you are placating the white people. They don't think nothing of you anyway. Like,
one of the things that really stuck out to me though is that like I'm not like for or against immigration. Like I don't really think a lot about immigration. That's definitely not one of the things that like factored into me making a vote. So like as a person who does not like focus a lot on immigration, and maybe that's wrong on my part, I don't know, but I don't focus a lot on immigration. So I don't have an issue with people that you're detaining people, you're taking them from the United States and sending them to, you know, wherever I don't have an issue with that per se. What my issue is how you're doing this. I don't think it needs to be these ICE roundups going into Home Depots and going into schools and churches and all this. That to me is like performative. And I think that is the reason why so many people are upset about this. It's not that people in this country are like, oh, yes. I mean, maybe some people are, I don't know. But it's not like people are like, it's no problem. Anybody can just come here and whatever. Like, I don't think people are thinking like that. I think right is right and wrong is wrong. Like, you just cannot be doing what you're doing the way you're doing it.
Right.
Not only is it performative, it's costly as hell. Isn't the point of all this?
Yeah. $135 million.
Yeah, like
is that
saving money and safety. This is creating the exact opposite of that. Like the city's not safe, and you're not saving any money. So what is the actual purpose of this?
And mind you, the Department of Defense still has not come up with a conclusive budget. They're just spending money that's not even actually there.
Yeah, just because they can.
There's no money.
They're not sending water or food or anything with the troops. The troops are holed up in the halls of the federal building.
Which let me say that is not an uncommon thing. When we travel, typically
you're in the United States.
In the United States, out of the United States, we are typically are sleeping on the floors and buildings up on the trucks where the heat is. Like that is not an atypical
what about
thing.
The food part?
Well, I mean, with the food part,
MREs, which is boxes like you saw in those pictures, boxes of meals ready to eat. Like those are not atypical things, and it shocks people. But like that,
but to be used to guard federal buildings is ridiculous, Bill. That's stupid.
But it is what it is.
With the food part, since they are outside and they're watching these protests, why can't they just go to In-N-Out and just get a little sandwich? Why they?
Right.
Yeah, no, they can't. They can't because
can they use
that on duty.
Discount?
Just go to In-N-Out, use that military discount, get your little burger.
Can you use your vet discount, Will?
I mean, if I'm going to In-N-Out Burger in that California right now in Los Angeles, I might just walk out. I'm not paying for nothing. I'm using that discount.
Look, that's what they're doing at the Apple Store.